Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining today. We'll get started now. This is the webinar, The Rise of the Freelancers. My name's Gabrielle Nagel, and I do the outreach, the community outreach for Getting Hired. I will just run through some logistics before we get started. So in case you are having any problem with audio, audio is available through the phone line. We also have a live captioning service. For anyone that isn't able to access the audio just yet, the dial-in number and the conference code are there on the screen. If you need to access the live captioning service, you can click on the link that's posted in the chat box to your right as well. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type them in that chat box as well, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. You may notice everyone is set to mute at the moment. If you do accidentally unmute yourself, I can mute you again. That does sometimes happen. If you're unable to access the chat box for whatever reason, you can also email me directly, which is gnagel@gettinghired.com. That's GNAGLE@gettinghired.com. We will be recording this webinar as well, so it will be uploaded next week onto the Getting Hired YouTube channel, and we will email all registrants a copy of the presentation and also a link to the recorded webinar. So look out for that if you have to drop off early. You can also download the PowerPoint presentation, which is available once you've registered to log into the event. You should be able to find the PowerPoint presentation under course materials. We'll also have a few questions popping up at the end of the webinar, just asking for your feedback. So feel free to let us know what you thought, what was useful, if there's anything we can improve on. And also if there's any topics around diversity and inclusion or career development for any job seekers with disabilities out there that you would like to see us feature a webinar on in the future. So as some of you may know, we normally do monthly job seeker webinars for job seekers with disabilities, and we do quarterly employer webinars. But because this topic around the freelance marketplace is so relevant to both, we decided to combine both audiences for this webinar. So any questions you ask, I will not read the names out, so they'll all be anonymous. Your details won't be shared with others. The webinar also, you may have noticed, was originally 45 minutes, but we've extended it to 1 hour just to ensure we can fit everything in. If you have to drop off soon, don't worry, you will be able to access the whole recorded presentation. The agenda today, you can see here, is we will discuss the freelance marketplace first. Then we will have a very quick look at a new talent platform from Getting Hired for freelancers with disabilities, and we'll let you know where you can get more information about that. And then if any employers would like to leave the webinar at that time, you're welcome to. And we will then end with tips on becoming a freelancer, which is specifically for the job seekers on the line. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bruce Morton, who is the Global Head of Innovation at Allegis Global Solutions. As a distinguished and globally recognized thought leader and innovator, Bruce has over 3 decades of experience within the human capital and workforce management industry. Throughout his career, he's designed, implemented, and managed some of the world's largest resourcing solutions, saving companies millions while securing the very best talent. As a renowned international keynote speaker, Bruce has stimulated audiences across the globe with his fresh and innovative approach to acquiring and managing top talent. In his current role as Global Head of Innovation, Bruce leads and champions the whole process of innovation for AGS and its clients, from new services and product idea generation, internal and external evangelism, digital and social media resourcing and engagement strategies, and also industry thought leadership through speaking engagements and association conferences and think tanks. So thank you so much for joining us today, Bruce.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you for that great introduction. I hope I live up to that. Good afternoon, everybody. I was just passing over the presentation hours to me. So great to speak to you all this afternoon. As Gabby said, we're going to play this in a few different ways. So I'll start off by talking about how we are in the world of work and how people are thinking differently now, and one of the reasons of the rise of the freelancers, other things that are causing that, and then we'll get into what we're doing to respond to those changes in the market. To get us going, I just thought we'd come out of recruitment and work for a second and think about the world that we're now living in, which some people are terming this as a service economy. I think some of the best examples of that, if any of you use any of these organizations, Box, which allows us to share massive files with people, which makes all our lives so much easier. And if you struggle with limits on your emails, I know how that's changed our lives. Airbnb, I think, is a great example of as a service economy. Many of you may know that they are the largest seller of space and accommodation in the world. They don't own one property. And then, of course, OpenTable does the same for restaurant booking, and then probably the king of them all at the moment is Uber, who are dramatically disrupting the very traditional taxi industry. And if you think about that, how that's, for those of you that use that, how easy that's made our life, not just to have that hassle of chasing the taxi company to see if they're on the way, but be able to see that on your phone, and also the ease they make the payment of that. It just becomes this world that we're living in where everything that we can do, we're actually expecting it with a click of a button. If you think about that as a service economy and where that all started, it all started in the world of IT, software as a service. Some of you may have heard that term, SaaS, and typical of the IT folks are saying, okay, we're having software as a service, we better have a platform as a service to put that on. If you're having platforms, you need an infrastructure for the platforms to go on. Continues to grow. We're now seeing this term, if you haven't seen this acronym yet, look out for it because you will, humans as a service. Organizations are now starting to think about how can we tap into that talent on a more on-demand basis as opposed to all of that talent or the majority of that talent being employees. If you think traditionally that's the way organizations typically built, you'd have a very large percentage of your workforce being tied to the business as an employee, and then you flex either seasonally or for other peaks and troughs of your business by bringing in contingent labor. But organizations are now starting to disrupt that model and think about everything that we get done. Can we think about that as an on-demand service? And this term, XaaS, now is everything as a service. So we're really living now in a world where people want and expect things real time. And that is the same in the marketplace. And think about what that philosophy and that mindset, how some of that is changing and what we're seeing in the current landscape. So this is the U.S. figure, 34% of the workforce right now is comprised of what's being termed non-traditional or non-employee labor and talent. By the end of next year, Ardent Partners are predicting that about a half of the total global workforce will be comprised of these workers that they're not tied to one specific employer. And we've seen that those percentages change and flex around the world. It's interesting. Here in the U.S., we're probably at about 40% already, but it's hard to get, the absolute up-to-date data. But the data that I look at, I think we're at about 40% right now. In Europe, we're just under 30. In parts of Asia, it's well above 50% already. But interestingly, as we as organizations see this as a vital part about how they're getting work done, they're starting to think it also as a strategic advantage, the ability to get the best out of this transient workforce, let's call it, that are being paid and for what they do as opposed to the hours they're doing, and almost going all the way back to 100 years ago when the term, piecework was around, where people were literally paid for their production and their outputs as opposed to their time in the office or sat at a desk. We went through that period in the 80s and 90s where it became almost a status symbol for working long hours. That started in the investment banking, then the legal industry picked up on it, professional services, and it almost became a badge of honor that you were in the office at crazy times in the morning and you were the last to leave. And we got to that point where people are sat in an office and you want to go home at 6 o'clock, but nobody wants to be the first to get out of their seat. We've moved way past that now, and organizations and individuals are saying, hey, pay me for what I know and what I do, not just the hour, give you face time. Part of course, flexi time and working from home and things like that have also helped on that journey. But with that backdrop and where we're at right now, it's also interesting to see that nearly 60% and over half of organizations are not actually capturing the full spend and cost of that contingent labor in that financial planning and budgeting. We're still seeing, in a lot of cases, organizations having headcount based on permanent headcount, and then line managers, using those non-employees, that contingent workers, sometimes just to allow them to flex up to get work done because they're limited and held back by that, what is seen to be now old-fashioned method of managing by headcount numbers. So we're just seeing the grassroots now, and organizations that we're working with starting to think about how do we capture all of that spend that we're spending on getting work done, and then capture, what type of contract we have with those individuals, as opposed to seeing it purely as this is my employee headcount and managing that way. And this term freelancers is becoming a bit of a catch-all. Just 10 years ago, it meant something different from what it did today. 10 years ago, I think it meant, what we think of as traditional freelancer, particularly in the media creative space. If you wanted to get a logo produced for your company or a brochure or some marketing material, those types of workers have always been, predominantly freelance, working for themselves. If you think about those types of individuals, those types of jobs. Now, if we look at this breakdown, and I apologize for the small text on your screen, but as Gabby said, you'll be able to download this later if you can't quite see that now. But these are all the different terms now that people are, and the industry is starting to use, and the breakdown of how they make up that 53 million people in the U.S. There's the independent contractors, which are, the ICs as we call them. Those consultant-type folks that almost have, have their own business. Moonlighters, these are people that are now having more than one position, one organization. Might be somebody in the retail sector in particular. Those, there might be 30 hours here and 30 hours somewhere else, or 20 hours somewhere else. Those diversified workers, these are people that, again, are representing themselves, organization, and having a portfolio of clients they're working for. We're seeing now freelance business owners, and this would be typically anything below 4 employees. People operating under a statement of work are seen now as freelancers as opposed to an organization. They're being categorized in the same way. And of course, since day one, really the temporary workers, where we think about those people that are coming in for a short period of time to do a temporary type position. But all of those different cohorts are making up that 53 million. But what's really interesting is, really for the last few years, for the first time, people are actually choosing to work this way. I got into the industry 32 years ago now, and at the time, people did temporary jobs or contract-type positions while they were waiting to find a full-time job or a permanent job. It was something that you almost had to do while you were looking for that, or if you couldn't find employment, you'd do this while you were waiting or while you were looking, or sometimes to try and get into an organization, try me out for a few months before I go permanent. we're now seeing people, and the stats here sort of speak for themselves, people are actually choosing this as a way of life, that they are, certainly in some skill sets, for example, if we took high niche IT skills, particularly on the West Coast of the U.S., application developers, let's use as an example, it's nearly impossible to actually hire those people that are that skilled in those niches as employees. The nature of their job they're doing and their skill set means they are more valuable as a consultant, as a contractor coming in and doing what might be a 6-month up to 18-month project, but they're increasing their own value by doing that as opposed to becoming an employee for a few years. So we're seeing some of those skill sets now where the only way you're going to get the best talent, or the very best talent, is to open up to be far more open to how does that talent want to work with me as opposed to how do I want to work with that talent. A few years ago, I think it would be fair to say that organizations were in what that percentage split would be inside the company in terms of employees versus non-employees. Now we're seeing more and more the talent itself driving those ratios by the way they want to work. And a lot of that and all of those changes, we summarize that with this term, talent's humor. And as we've studied the world of work over the last many, many years, we've identified the philosophy. Some people say this is a generational thing. My view is that the only difference here is that if you're a baby boomer like me, you remember how it used to be different. If you're a Gen Y millennial, this is all you know. What we mean by that is that individuals thinking about work the same way that they think and act and behave as a consumer. So the good old days, and any of you on the webinar there in their 50s like me will remember when you used to go to work and come back again. And you were literally, almost two people. You were somebody at home, and then you put on this work mask and you went to work, behaved slightly differently, and came home again. And then just 10 short years ago, when somebody invented what we now call the smartphone, we were able to work on the way to work and on the way back to work. And very quickly, we got into the world we now live in, which is we call work-life integration. It basically means you're on all the time, 24/7, thinking and actually being able to work and having the ability to input because of technology. And what that's created is because it's such an intricate part of our lives that we're actually behaving as who we are at work. We're not having this 9 to 5 on somebody differently. If you think about the way that a marketer for let's say a consumer organization, FMCG company or something, if the marketer's job is to get out there, get people's attention, turn that attention into attraction, turn that attraction into being a customer, give them phenomenal customer service, then they become a loyal customer, and then they become a brand ambassador to say great things about your brand. And all of you can probably think about certain brands that you use and are loyal to in your life. I guess Apple's a really good one for any Apple people on the call. People that like Apple tend to be very passionate about that, and they do a great job of that. They're building that around them. We now see the world of work being the same thing. So organizations need to grab those workers' attention, turn it into attraction, bring them into the organization to provide their skills and work in whatever form or whatever contract, give them phenomenal customer service, the same way as you would if they were a consumer, which would make them loyal to your organization while they're working for you, and a talent ambassador while they're working, and sometimes even more importantly, perhaps when they've moved on to their next project. So we're seeing now organizations starting to think far more about how do we market to our people before they join us and while they're still working for us, and how do we give them that phenomenal customer service, in other words, making it easy for them to do their very best work. That's what everybody wants to do, we believe, so that they become a true talent ambassador to attract greater and greater talent. And this is becoming now more and more important in this world where, a third of your people and more are not employees. If they're doing short-term assignments, how quickly can we get them adopted into our culture and our beliefs and our passions so they can do phenomenal work in that very short time. The days of hiring, even an employee, the days of hiring somebody and saying, yeah, let's have a plan to get return on investment within 2 or 3 years, that's long gone now. And organizations are thinking about how do we allow them to do that very best work, and how do we set up our organization in a way that they can do that. And that's what we term the talent schema, thinking about people actually consuming work and pay. One of the other factors we see creating this rise of the freelancer is this volatility we're in. And you may have guessed by my accent that I'm originally from the UK. I now live in Stamford, Connecticut. Been here 8 years, but still very closely attached to the UK. And the Brexit announcement a couple of weeks ago, I think, the massive volatility that has caused, not just in the UK, but literally within seconds around the world. We all know that we're now living in that world, and here in the US, for publicly listed companies, we have that 3-month cycle of reporting to the city, and we now live in this ever-changing world where it is so volatile that that's actually encouraging organizations to, where they can, actually have a smaller and smaller core of individuals that are employees to give greater flexibility to that volatility, not just to downsize, but to upsize as well at the same time. So again, that's lending itself to this world of having this on-demand type approach to workers. So the next thing is, and the exciting thing is, I like to term this, that we're all in the movie business, and I think it's such a great analogy how we think about that, is that you think about the way a movie is made. Any of you that are movie buffs that, at the end of the movie, watch all of those names and job titles scrolling for a good 10 minutes. All of those people that are brought together to make, hopefully, that piece of magic to entertain us, there's less than a handful of those people that are actually employees of the production company. And it's how the movie business has always worked, and forever. That you have a number of people that raise up some money, they raise the ability to create something hopefully special, and then they pull all these people in, work together on a project. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. And some of those a very large percentage of them have always been freelancers. So now as we think about our organizations, as we think about the projects that we need to get done and targets that we need to hit, if you think about that in the same way, it's all about what's the best way of bringing a team of experts together to create this piece of magic and move on to the next project. So there are 4 big things that we're seeing in, if you like, I'll call them predictions, but we're already seeing this happen. And it's interesting, I think when we use the term future these days, we mean now. But what we're seeing now, and we're seeing evidence of inside organizations, as companies think about how they respond to the individual's desire and passion to work more fluently and more independently, and how the market drivers are making them think that way as well. These are the 4 big things that we're seeing. And the first one is organizations and companies becoming talent platforms. And what we mean by that is thinking about your company as a place where your true competitive advantage is, can you get more out of somebody and allow that person to produce more for you than they would if they were with a competitor? It's no longer just about how can I find the best talent. Actually, in some ways, more important is what do I do with that talent when they get here? Do I hire somebody that's an innovator and put them in a cubicle? Be a bad example of that, The reason I've hired that person is all their experience and all their passion and desires. When they get here, do I actually allow them to use all of that? Do I allow them to do their very best work day in and day out? And to do that, how do I design the organization in a way that it feels more like a talent platform as opposed to an organizational structure with lots of process and procedures that are far more corporate-centric? So rather than think of it as an organization, think of it as a talent platform. The next is new dimensions of leadership. So if we look back in history when when I was at university, it was all about reading management books and all about how to be a great manager. Then all of that was, no, throw that away. It's all about being a leader now. It's push from the back and leaders lead from the front and all that. What we're now seeing in terms of the next stage of leadership is leaders having the ability to truly understand how the best way is to get that piece of work done. As opposed to saying, I need to get this work done, here's my people where they're going to do it, how do I lead them to get it done in the best way? It's about thinking about the work itself, being able to break that down into tasks. What is the very best way to do this? What are the different ways I can actually get this piece of work done, as opposed to purely talking about how do I lead the people? So this term, there's a great book actually out there called Leading Work, which is all about that philosophy of how do you lead work and not just lead people? How do you, inside your organization, and help the organization that you work for think differently in terms of how can we get this work done? The third one is workforce design meeting consumer design, which obviously ties back into the talent human piece. Companies thinking about the way that we're set up, the way that we allow our people, encourage them, enable them, motivate them, and reward them to do their very best work. Is that corporate designed or is it individual designed? If I was designing this, thinking all about all my people as consumers, would I design this the same way? The way that people act now and get things done in their other life, if they have one outside work, by pressing buttons on their phone, for example, do we make it that easy for them inside work? Do we have, an app for them to do their travel expenses, or do they have to sellotape pieces of paper to another piece of paper and mail them into me or something? Am I designing this in a way, if all of these people are customers, would I be treating them that way? So in other words, as you think about workforce design, bringing a consumer element to it, how easy am I making it for people to get their stuff done? And last of the four, which is my personal favorite, we're just seeing some great examples of now, is what's called crowdsourced first business models, where organizations are taking that piece of work with that new dimensional leadership head on, saying, how can I do this differently? How can I break the mold here and disrupt and think about getting this work done differently? And one of the best examples I've seen of that recently is with Standard Chartered, who happens to be one of our clients, but actually we weren't involved in this. I'd love to take claim for it if we were. So they had a need to track the cost of living in Nigeria on a virtually as close as they could to real-time basis. Now, the old model would have been that it brought a consultancy in and that it spent a lot of money to work out how they could do that, how they could track financials, et cetera, et cetera. The head of marketing for Standard Chartered got involved in the project, and she said, well, we've got people out there that are consumers that are actually buying goods that we're tracking the price of. Why don't we use them? So they gave away 5,000 phones, and they pay the license for those and for the monthly license fee for those phones. For people, all they have to do is whenever they go shopping, they go to their local store and they take a picture of their potatoes, for example, in this picture, with the price next to it, and all of that is instantly fed back into Standard Chartered with some artificial intelligence machine learning that real-time actually tracks the cost of living. And a small example, but I think a great example of how organizations, particularly in the financial services industry, are starting to think differently about how we get work done and trying to break away from how it's always been done. If you go online, you can see that case study. Actually, is a pretty cool video from the head of marketing talking about it. But I think we're seeing a lot of that disruption now in the financial services marketplace. I think as banks are thinking about reinventing themselves for the new world, because they're constantly under threat. All the stuff we read online about individual loans and personal loans, etc. So I think the banks are in that situation the same as the rest of us, of reinventing themselves, and part of that is definitely thinking about getting work done differently. So all that going on and all those changes and this massive rise obviously is an organization that's in the industry. We're in the business of providing and finding talent and managing talent for our clients. We've been giving a lot of thought to how do we create a platform to allow all the great people that we work with disabilities to be getting higher platform, but up to this point, we've been encouraging organizations to advertise and promote their opportunities for that database of people to find permanent employment. How can we open that database up to clients to find talent that can come in on a project basis? And, of course, how can we identify those opportunities so that the database of folks that we have can find those projects to allow them to engage directly with those organizations and work in that way. So I'm not going to go into this in great detail. If you need any, if you'd like to know more about it, then you'll see an email address at the end and reach out to Gabby. But basically what we've done is built this talent platform that allows somebody to find the work or to find the individual through some clever algorithms, allows the verification of those people. So organizations will have certain criteria for background checking, et cetera, eligibility to work. So all of that's built into the system, allows those workers and employers to collaborate and communicate on projects themselves. What we're seeing now is just a database. It's actually somewhere where the work can get done, sharing files, collaborating on pieces of work, et cetera. And then, of course, we've built in the ability to get the people paid, whether they be, first of all, the classification. Are they an IC compliant, or are they more of a W-2 to help the individuals navigate themselves around that, and then they can become the agent of record or the employer of record for that, and obviously make sure that we handle all the payment as well. And the interesting thing with these talent platforms, we're not unique in this. I think unique is the fact that we're doing this for the Getting High population, but there are a number of these platforms out there. I'm sure you've seen them popping up everywhere to allow organizations to directly engage and find people that can get this project work done at incredible speed. But now this can happen. The platforms we work with market, they fill 90% of their projects within 5 minutes of putting them on there. So really is disrupting our industry in a way which we think is really exciting. And obviously we're heavily involved in that, and we're very proud, actually, and passionate about getting this platform launched now to help our great people and a network of folks with disabilities to find some of that project work. So on that, I'm going to hand over to Gabby to get into a bit more detail from a lot of employers' perspective. If you're a employee or a freelancer or looking to be a freelancer, what are the things you should be looking for? So, Gabby, let me hand the power back to you and allow you to take it forward from here.
Thanks very much, Bruce. That was really, really informative. So we will just move on to the job seeker portion now before we get to the questions at the end. Just also related to the platform you were talking about, the new platform coming up, and also just to show how this whole freelancer movement is also really being reflected in job seekers with disabilities as well. It's interesting to note that when we Getting Higher does regular job seeker surveys and analysis with job seekers with disabilities across the country. And just something I thought was worth noting as well, that 48% of those job seekers have told us that they are currently interested in freelance opportunities. And also interesting, 42% said that they are now more interested in freelancing than they were 1 year ago. So I think, this whole movement you're talking about with the workforce changing, it really is across the board, with and without disabilities. People are starting to have different expectations about how their work-life balance looks. So it's just something I thought I would add quickly. So just moving on to the first page here of freelancer tips. So this is just a sample of some of the specialisms that freelancers can offer. So I know sometimes, you may think initially, well, what sort of things can I do? What sort of services can I offer as a freelancer? And the sort of first things that usually would come to your mind would be creative things like maybe graphic design or, or writing different copy for different purposes. But you can see actually this is just a sample of some of the sections on one of the platforms for freelancers that many freelancers actually specialize in. And also, you have to remember these are across all industries and also global. So you're not limited to just doing work, within your country. You could be doing work pretty much anywhere in the world. Just some of these to jump out at you, because I know the writing's quite small. But there are things like, web, mobile, and software development. Besides sort of web and online development, there's also an IT and networking specialism. And there's also admin support. You could even do, data entry or web research or project management. There's, customer service as well, sales and marketing, engineering, data science and analytics. There's also translation or legal work or accounting and consulting. So there really is a lot of skills out there that, can be offered and are being sought actively by a lot of employers. There are also, just looking at some of the subcategories underneath these categories, there are also many, many, many freelancing sites that specialize in just a particular service. For example, just graphic designers or software programmers or writers. You can find specialist freelancing websites out there, as well as, general freelancing sites to put your services on. For example, you can see some of them, some of the main ones down there are Upwork, Guru, People Per Hour, and freelancer.com. So the benefits of freelancing are pretty obvious. You can work from anywhere. You can set your own schedule. You can manage your own workload. So you choose how many projects you want to do and at what time you want to do them. You can choose what projects you want to work on and setting your own prices for whatever work you choose to do. The flexibility and independence you gain can really be liberating and can give you the freedom to set your own work-life balance. Whether you want to freelance on the side or become a full-time freelancer, it's best to start building your freelancing career while maintaining your day job or primary source of income. So this can give you a lot of benefits and reduces the impact of any mistakes that you will no doubt make as part of your learning process in becoming someone who's successful at freelancing. It will give you the safety net to try new things and learn what works and what doesn't. So some of the things you want to be thinking about when considering freelancing. Also, again, strongly recommend you start building your freelancing portfolio and, starting to look at some of those opportunities while you're actually still in your day job. So you're going to want to decide whether you want to be a generalist or a specialist. And you'll need to choose what service you want to specialize in, of course. So think about what skills you have that can contribute to a business's success. Decide if you'd rather be a generalist or a specialist in something in particular. You may think being a generalist will guarantee more work offers, but actually specializing in a niche area can make you the go-to person for anything related to that subject. So it's easier as well to become an expert in something specific that you can focus all your energy on. Freelancing as a sideline while maintaining your primary income means that you can really take the time and have the additional income you need to invest in developing and refining your skills and improving any weak areas to ensure that you can really provide a quality service to any clients that you do take on. Also, continuing with your day job and freelancing as a sideline, it can also help you build the necessary savings that you'll need to become fully self-employed eventually, if you choose to do so. So start building your name as a freelancer now. Offer your services to hire on freelancing sites and create your own website, showcasing your portfolio of work. Establishing yourself as an expert in any field takes some time, and it also takes a lot of networking. So really get active and get involved in communities and networks related to your chosen field. Try connecting with influencers and others with similar interests and contribute to conversations online that you see are relevant in the industry that you're really looking at. Also, offering free original content on your specialism is a great way to get your name out there. Whether it's through blog posts or creating ebooks or white papers or even speaking in webinars or offline events, sharing your knowledge regularly will link your name to that subject in people's minds, and then you'll be one of the first contacts they think of reaching out to if or when they require a related service. You'll also really need to think about setting up your business identity. So decide what you want your personal brand to be. What's your unique selling point to help you stand out from all the other freelancers? Take the time to really identify your strengths and streamline your elevator pitch to ensure that any potential clients you meet can immediately understand what it is you offer and what your unique value is. Once you've got this down, it should help you to establish your range of prices and what type of projects or clients you want to seek out and prioritize, and how they will fit into your business model. There's constantly potential opportunities for work springing up around you, often on a daily basis. So when you start to hone in on them, you will really start to see how many opportunities there are. To build a network of clients, be prepared to network online and offline, and utilize all of the contacts that you already have. Start building your portfolio online and showcase your projects, companies you've worked with, and reviews from past clients as well. Before taking any leap into starting your own freelance business, wait until you earn a side income of at least 75% of what your salary job pays. You should have enough savings to cover you through the transition period. So ensure your budget covers basic costs like rent or mortgage, any bills or debts that you need to continue to pay, food and fuel, insurance, travel, and also any business costs that you may incur in setting up your own freelance business. There are numerous books and resources online for guidance in becoming a successful freelancer, and also on entrepreneurship. So these are 3 disability-specific resources that offer a lot of information and guidance in becoming self-employed as an individual with a disability. There's ODEP, the Office of Disability Employment Policy. If you go to their website, they have a section on self-employment and entrepreneurship, which has a lot of useful information. It also has a lot of other resources that it's linked to that can give you even further guidance. Disability Horizons is a disability-specific organization. They publish a lot of information around living with a disability in general, but they also have an article in particular that's written by a freelance writer with a disability, talking about her experiences and giving some advice and tips around navigating that kind of world. All of these specific links, don't worry, they'll all be included in the email that we email out to everyone. So don't worry about jotting these down, you'll have a copy of this. Also, there's the Chicagoland Entrepreneurship Education for People with Disabilities, so also called SEED. This is an Illinois-based program who are actually creating a comprehensive curriculum that addresses both the disability and business needs of entrepreneurs with disabilities. They've been holding their first training for service providers from both disability community agencies, small business development centers, and also training for entrepreneurs with disabilities themselves. They're currently holding their first training, which is actually fully booked according to their website, but you can put your name and information there to be contacted for future opportunities. And there's also a wealth of information on their site, so I really strongly encourage you to visit that as well. The last three sites here are general freelancing and entrepreneurial information resources that are also really worth checking out. There's the U.S. Small Business Administration, or SBA, that is set up to help Americans start, build, and grow businesses, and its mission is to aid, counsel, assist, and protect the interests of small business concerns. So you can really find a lot of information and resources on there as well around, becoming an entrepreneur, around freelancing, lots of practical information around self-employment and all the kind of issues you're really going to need to plan for around that. So this is the end of the presentation. I hope that was useful for everyone. You can see here on the screen, this is the contact information for any employers that are interested in finding out more about the Getting Hired Freelance Talent Platform that is for freelancers with disabilities. You can contact Ryan Carroll directly, who is the Getting Hired Account Manager. His email's there and his phone number, 410-694-5410. As I said, you'll get all this information, but please do contact him directly if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like more information about concerning that upcoming platform. So now is a good time to go to any questions we have. I will start off with, we've got a few here. I'll start off with a couple for you, Bruce, since some of the employers have probably been waiting quite patiently through the freelancing information. So we've got one question here. Do you think that leaders in this new work environment will rely more on their technical or functional knowledge to manage the work than the management skills that they use to manage people?
It's a great question. If I understand it correctly, so this is about their technical capability over their management capability.
Yeah, sort of people skills. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's my quick answer is no. I think it will still need to be a combination of both. But I think the management, the people skills piece of it, I think where that's changing is that the ability, the important ability is to be able to manage a very dispersed team that you might not see, and you might ever only speak to on conference calls once a week or once a month, and you may get together a couple of times a year. I think that's a much different skill to the good old days when you sat there, looking across a group of desks where you can see what people are up to. I think that does take a different type of technique and a different style. And I think it's beholden to HR to make sure that they're people that have been used to managing, let's call it the old style, are being given the skills and the coaching and the capability to manage in the new world.
Great. I hope that answers your question there. We also have another question here. How will the widespread use of freelancers work with the current recruitment process, and will that need to be changed?
Yeah, I think we're already starting to, at very, very early days of moving towards is as people think about the task that needs to get done and the piece of work that needs to get done, I think it'll be having the ability to say, okay, what is the talent that's available right now, and let's use that factor as part of the criteria to decide on how I actually get this work done. What we tend to do now is saying, okay, I need this piece of work, let's understand what type of people I need, let's create a job description with a person description and future responsibilities, push that out there with your recruitment partner or do it internally or whatever you may do that, and then see what's available based on that need that you've created and put into a box almost. I think what we're moving towards is saying, okay, this is the thing I need to get done. Let's go and find out what available talents I have internally, first of all. And by internal, that could be employees or freelancers or contractors that have a relationship with you or experience of working inside your culture and inside your processes and organization. Who are those people? Based on that availability, where should I put this piece of work and how will I design that project team as opposed to the other way around? So I think that's where we're going to see that merge of people thinking about their talent base far more universally, not just their employees, and, oh, I haven't got anybody, I better go external, to actually see them all in one place and then make this decision based on that. So I think we'll see I think the easy answer to your question, I think that we'll see a merger of those different databases and talent pools into one place. You can make those decisions.
Great, thank you. We have just one other question here when it comes to the employer side of things. Will new employment laws need to be created to stay relevant to today's workforce?
That's a great question. One of my soapboxes. As you travel around the world and country by country, it's a complete, I won't say mess, that's probably too political, but particularly in some parts of continental Europe, they're actually trying to go the way to try and contain this and slow it down. I think what we're seeing in Canada is a personal view. I think that's more indicative of where we'll see the world go, where in the U.S., for example, the concept of an independent contractor means that you have to prove that you are a business that have a portfolio of clients. In Canada, they have now what's called a dependent contractor, and the government is saying that's okay. If you're self-employed and just have one organization you're working for, we'll still class you as a contractor, not try and force you into some form of employee. If you look at all of the case studies that we're seeing now, that Uber are responsible for most of them, and the big one with FedEx, et cetera, we're starting to see governments shaping their opinions, and my personal hope is that we live in a more and more freer world where people are allowed to work in these ways that they desire. But I think the government just have to find an easier way of, putting it bluntly, getting their tax dollar, whilst at the same time making sure that we're looking after people, that, and everybody has the same opportunity to do that. We don't punish people or give people a disadvantage if they don't have the ability to work that way. It's a fine line, but I think that my hope is that as governments do change those laws, they're doing that from the desire of people, as opposed to what makes it easy for them to collect their tax dollar.
Great, thank you for that. We've actually got another one in, since we have a few minutes. You spoke about work-life balance. I know that's sort of a big topic around freelancing in general. It's a difficult thing because there's obviously pros and cons to the whole flexible working. A pro would be you're always on, but then a con would be you're always on. So we have a question about work-life balance. Any tips for employers who email after 9 p.m.?
Get a life. It's interesting that I was in Argentina recently, and our partner down there, who's a very large staffing company, they actually turned their servers off on a Friday night and put them back on a Monday morning. And I was just blown away by the fact that they're good on them for doing that. And the reason they did it is because all their workers were just working all over the weekend. And they felt that they were, they needed to not be doing that on the weekend. So they were forced not to work that way. I think that all we can do with if employers are expecting too much, what we can't do is fall into the trap. Because all of us have, in a way, we've created this world. That first ever email you had on a Sunday morning, when you open up your laptop, and you're like, what? You're emailing me on a Sunday? And then we reply. So I'm generalizing here, but we've sort of made our own bed here. We have to lie in it. But I think that the only way that you can control somebody that's emailing you after 9 o'clock at night is not respond till 8 o'clock in the morning. I know that's not a great answer, but that's all I've got.
No, that's fair enough. We also have, so this question is, it's more of a job seeker question, but I'm just wondering if you happen to have any thoughts around it. I know it's a little bit outside your realm, but so one of the job seekers is asking, there's somebody who actually is freelancing presently, and they freelance remotely, and they're wondering about how, or if, I guess, there is any way to ensure that they are paid, and probably that they're paid promptly or, within a reasonable time period. Is that something you see as maybe being a problem that's going to be happening more often, or just the fact that I guess there's a lack of maybe laws or rules around that, or guidelines even?
I think the first point would be to make sure that you check out the platforms that you're working through, and W mentioned a few, and Work Market's another one. You want to make sure that it's a reputable, large enough organization that are credible, and they're actually what happens in those in depth. So let's use Upwork as an example. If you find work on the Upwork platform for, pick a name, Microsoft are paying Upwork and Upwork are paying you, and the contract that Microsoft has with Upwork, it's not with you because they're acting as your agent of record. So in those cases where there's an indemnification, that's something to check out as you compare those sites. But the freelancerunion.org is a really good, and it's not a union, that's just the name of the site, but they're acting like a union, being good freelancing spirit, not a real union, more of an independent collaboration. And there's some really good content on there that answers some of those questions and gives some great tips. So that's freelancerunion.org.
Thank you for that. That's a really good resource as well, actually. I'll definitely add that into the email of resources for job seekers, freelancerunion.com. We also have a question here. So I assume this person is a job seeker, and they're asking about what the very next step to take would be. So I would say, just going back to this slide, so I think these are really the kind of first steps to take if you're, just starting out and just thinking about getting into freelancing. I would say, start thinking about what your services would be, what your skills are, what your strengths are, what's your unique value that you can bring to businesses and, in terms of helping their business objectives. And, whether you want to be a generalist or a specialist, what are you going to specialize in, or would you, prefer to leave yourself open to doing all sorts of projects, under more of an umbrella kind of area. And start sort of trying to get your name out there, get really active online, start, getting involved in all the the communities and all the events and, you know, everything that can really sort of get your foot into that industry and meeting the right people and being able to network as much as you can in terms of offering your service and making sure that employers are starting to at least be aware that, you know, that you are someone out there that they can call on should they be interested in that. And again, you know, start reaching out to your own contacts as well. So those are a few things I would start off looking at, and also the you know, definitely check out these websites as well that I spoke about earlier, because they have a lot of great guidance and information for you. And I think we will leave it there. 1 o'clock on the dot. So thank you again so much, Bruce, for joining us. That was really, really valuable. And I think, you know, just getting an understanding of the changing workforce and the landscape of the job market right now is really useful for job seekers and employers. So I hope somebody, or I hope everyone's gotten at least something new out of this. I'm going to put some feedback questions up now. So I'd love your feedback to let us know what was useful and, you know, if there's anything you'd like us to change in the future. Also, I will ask for your feedback in the emails too. So please do let us know how we did, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week.
Thanks, Gabby. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.